The Italian Renaissance is a moment that rethinks just about everything. What is art? What is science? What is politics? What is literature? I mean, all of these things are in play. It's a period in which a lot of these disciplines are either in formation or reformation, right? That many ancient forms of knowledge or practices are being reinvented. People are openly asking themselves, what can artisans contribute to knowledge? What does it mean to see the world? One version of the Italian Renaissance is to fall in love with the literature, right? The world of Boccaccio and, Petrarch, and the world, of course, inspired by Dante, all the things that come out of that fantastic stuff. For me, it's always been the way in which the world between Leonardo and Galileo helps to create the building blocks of a scientific worldview and of the integration of science into society. My work lies at the intersection between the Italian Renaissance and the history of science, and I have always found myself especially fascinated by, well, actually profoundly attracted to, people who were inspired by and contributed to many different disciplines. So that makes them hard to categorize. Are they artists? Are they scientists? Are they writers? What are these people? And I'm really fascinated by what it means to take ourselves back to a moment in which all of these disciplines tend to work together rather than separately. I'm always looking for those kinds of people who are not only experimenting with old and new methodologies, finding new ways to combine things that will lead to some sort of new insight into the natural world or how to build a machine or what a machine can do for you. But I'm also looking for these people who, in the end, we can't simply define as scientist, but who fruitfully combine something important and innovative in a scientific outlook with the insights from all the other things we associate with Renaissance Italy. I think you need to dig in the box like an archaeologist as deep as you can go. Those are your source materials, and you need to think outside the box at the same time. That's what's going to inspire you and make you creative as a scholar. I'm always hoping that the farther down I dig, when I do my historical archaeology of a subject, the more I'm going to find some fascinating shard, right? A nice pottery shard, so to speak, from the past. And even if I don't know what it means initially, eventually I'll see more and more of it emerge, and I'll hope in time that I can reconstruct something close to the entire thing. I feel like I spend, half of my research time is thinking of new ways to look at the materials that are coming up online, to figure out which ones are interesting, and to kind of put together, assemble for myself that archive through my computer in relationship to the physical archives in libraries and all over the world. For me, research is a product as much of conversation as reading and reflecting. So the questions my students ask me about this period, their interests, the conversations I have with my colleagues, shape very much the next step I'm going to take. I'm always looking to see what will happen, what will come out of an interesting conversation with someone about the Renaissance or about the history of science. He's the son of a musician. His writings are still considered some of the most elegant writings in modern Italian. People still read them in Italian schools today to see what a good writer looks like. But he's also, this important scientist. He transforms a Dutch spyglass into, a scientific instrument, the telescope. He does great and controversial things with them. He suffers the consequences. So Galileo is so many things. He's a friend of artists who claims he wanted to be an artist. I mean, he has many of the characteristics that we often attribute to Leonardo, in some ways in a much deeper way when you see how he brings them together in his own work. We used to tell a story about the Renaissance, that this was the birth of the modern world. This story is no longer tenable. But what is tenable is to say to ourselves, this moment is a very interesting case study in how a world can be transformed, right? And how a world can produce an enormous body of fascinating material, writings, art, science, inventions, new ways of thinking about politics. What I come back to is the idea that we should always be hoping that the world might be reborn. You know, there's a kind of optimism to that. And you know, let's not forget that the Renaissance was an era absolutely torn by war, disease. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are upon them in almost every moment. And yet they do interesting things. So I like that sort of creative response to not only problems but possibilities. I think that's what I really like about the Renaissance in the end.